Hey, it's Chris Wark, 17-year cancer survivor, author, and patient advocate, and I want to take a minute to explain why I have not received a COVID-19 vaccine. So the first thing I want to explain to you that if maybe you don't know this, but pharmaceutical drugs are the fourth leading cause of death in the US, right? They're deadly. They can cause a number of chronic health conditions and death. They tell you this at the end of the drug commercials. They also tell you this in great detail in the package inserts that come with the drugs, which of course nobody reads. So it's really important to understand that pharmaceutical drugs can, some of them directly cause cancer and others can indirectly cause cancer through immunosuppression. And you need to know whether a drug is increasing your risk of cancer before you take it so you can make an informed decision. You can weigh the risks, right, versus the benefits. Now, the COVID-19 investigational vaccines were released to the public after only 2 months of testing in healthy humans. And so the big red flag for me is we have no idea if this drug causes or contributes to cancer in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or over a lifetime. Right? No one knows the answer because they were only tested for 2 months before they started giving them to the public. So that was the reason I said no in the beginning to a vaccine. And as a patient advocate, I could not in good conscience encourage others to take a drug where the cancer risk is unknown. Now, put the cancer risk aside for a second. What about the risk of heart disease or diabetes or autoimmune disease like lupus or Sjogren's or Hashimoto's? Or what about the risk for neurodegenerative brain disease like Alzheimer's or dementia or Parkinson's? We don't know the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, or lifetime risk of any of those chronic diseases. We have no idea. So we won't know for another 9 years, right? In a couple of years, we'll know the 2-year risk. In a few more years, we'll know the 5-year. And then a few more years after that, we'll know the 9-year, 10-year risk. So we've got a long way to go before we know if these drugs are safe. And as a patient advocate, I have to say it is incredibly reckless for anyone to claim that a drug is safe with only 2 months of testing on healthy humans. They didn't test this on sick people. They didn't test it on cancer patients. They didn't test it on pregnant women, right? They only tested it on healthy people for 2 months. Okay, so we have no idea what the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, or lifetime risk of cancer or heart disease or every disease you can think of almost is with this brand new drug technology. Now, compare that to what we do know. We do know the risk of death from COVID-19. It's very, very low. In fact, survival for anyone under 70 is 99.85%, give or take. Survival for children is 99.997%. It's incredibly high. In fact, Dr. Marty Makary and his research team at Johns Hopkins published a study in July, and they said that mortality risk for children is zero, unless they have a pre-existing condition like leukemia. So that's very good news. It's very good news, and we know exactly what we're dealing with. Versus the unknown risk and potential side effects and life-threatening conditions of a brand new drug technology. So you have a choice, right? You can choose a known risk or an unknown risk. And again, if you choose to take a new drug, it's your life, it's your body, it's your choice. I have no problem with you taking any drug you want to take. So it's just important that we are honest, that we tell the truth about the risk. And the truth is the risk is unknown. The risk of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, brain disease, and on and on and on over 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or a lifetime from a new drug is unknown. And only time will tell us what those risks are. So that's a perfectly reasonable reason to say no to a new drug. No one should be forced or coerced or mandated to take a drug with no long-term safety testing, especially for a virus that has a 99.85% survival rate in people under 70, 96% survival in people over 70. The average age of death is the same as the average lifespan in America, which is around 80 from the virus, and children have a zero mortality risk unless they have a pre-existing condition. So I think the known risk is, I'm comfortable with the known risk. I think you should be too. It's not something to be afraid of, although the fear mongering is just nonstop. And wouldn't it be nice if the media would remind us every day that the survival is 99.85% in adults under 70, and that it's 99.997% in children? Wouldn't that be nice? Instead of just constant reporting on cases and deaths and this just relentless fear mongering. You know, if they did the same thing with car accidents, you'd be afraid to ride in cars. Over 100 people die in car accidents in the US every single day. They could report on every single car accident, show the face of every person who died, tell their life story. They could do a 24-hour news cycle every single day of the year because they've got 100 news stories every day of people who've died in car accidents. And if they did that in a very short time, just a few months, if the media focused all their attention on car accident deaths, pretty soon most people would be afraid to ride in cars. So I just want you to understand the dynamics of what's going on here with the fear mongering. The risk is low, we're safe, we don't have to be afraid, and no one should be expected or coerced or forced to take a new drug that they don't want to take, or to take an old drug that they don't want to take. And we're not putting others at risk because the risk is extremely low. So, love to hear your comments and questions and feedback. You can post that below the video. I also have resources for you, incredible doctors and scientists who have spoken out and actually been censored and their reputations attacked, and all kinds of crazy stuff has happened to some of the smartest, most published doctors and scientists around the world who also don't agree that a brand new drug should be rolled out and given to millions of people without long-term safety testing. So if you want to hear from the doctors who are speaking out about this kind of thing, then you can go to chrisbeatcancer.com/COVID. And there's a bunch of links to studies and papers and interviews with these incredible, courageous doctors and scientists out there. And that the number of them is growing. It really is unprecedented in human history to have this many doctors and scientists oppose a new drug. And so if you haven't heard from them, most of them are being ignored by the mainstream media. So if you haven't heard from them, I want to encourage you to go listen. Just listen and learn from some incredibly smart people, and so you can understand their concerns, because there's a lot more concerns than even just the little bit I've talked about here. So anyway, wrapping up, there's no reason to take a drug that has no long-term safety testing, because we don't know the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, or lifetime risk of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, brain disease, autoimmune disease, and on and on and on. Thanks for watching. See you soon.